Good evening and welcome to the July 9th meeting of the Lawrence City Council Personnel Committee. I am the chairman, Dave Abdu. I am joined this evening by Council President Kendris Vasquez and Councilor Maria Dela Cruz. This evening we will be taking up one agenda item, and we do anticipate an executive session to immediately follow the general instructions. At the end of the evening, we will come back into public session. Outside of any unforeseen circumstances, we would only come back into session to gavel out as prescribed by the Mass General Law that dictates these open meeting laws, the open meeting law. With that, I would ask that everyone stand and we pledge the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So what I want to do is a little bit more instruction of how this night is going to go, and then I want to invite Mr. Bonet, Frank Bonet, who is our personnel director, to give us more detailed information. In a few moments, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bonet. Again, the item number is 24418 for those in the chamber and at home. That's the city attorney job application review and appointment consideration. The city attorney is a position that is appointed by the city council. It's unique in that sense. And this committee, the personnel committee, will this evening meet in public, gavel into executive session. There are 4 finalists that will be interviewed this evening. Each one will be interviewed in executive session privately, and they will answer the same 11 questions as the others. Those questions will be heard by this committee, evaluated, and that will conclude the process for this evening. It will then continue in the coming weeks, and it would be a decision subject to any clarification or correction by the council president. It would occur at this time, theoretically, during the August time frame when the city council meets later in the month of August. And that, as I understand it, would be a more, that would be the night of selection, correct? So, with that said, Mr. President, did I get that right? You are. Thank you. So with that, I would ask Mr. Frank Bonet, our personnel director, to approach. He's at the podium to please give us the running rules for the evening and how this is going to occur.
Well, good evening. My name is Frank Bonet, personnel director, City of Lawrence, 33 Dartmouth Street. Thank you for having me here this evening. As you know, I'm thankful for the opportunity to assist in this process. Before you, I have provided you a binder with a certain number of documents that I'll go down through and introduce. I'd like to let the audience also know that these documents will become public. After the meeting, I'll provide them to the minute taker to file. The first thing that I want to bring to your attention is the loose open meeting law guide. And if you can just go to page 12, it'll be number 8, just to ensure that our audience understands that the open law, how it applies the executive session for interviews. It says number 8, to consider or interview applicants for employment or appointment by a preliminary screening committee if the chair declares that an open meeting will have detrimental effects in obtaining qualified applicants, provided, however, that this clause shall not apply to any meeting, including meetings of the preliminary screening committee, to consider and interview applicants who have passed prior preliminary screening, and it tells you the exact reason on why we should go into executive session. And of course, we have questions that, if asked out in public, will give the other candidates an opportunity to better prepare themselves in answering, and that's why we're going to executive session. So I just wanted to give you that so that we understand. Also in your binder, what you'll find is, first is the table of contents, and what we provided is a copy of the job posting as was signed by the council president on April 18th, with a deadline of June 1st. You'll also see the city ordinance on the next tab for city attorney, 2.20.010, also 2.20.020, which is an annual report by the city attorney. The tab after that is all the advertisement sites in which we have, under a spending freeze, we're able to post and advertise these on. And the next tab is for your information. It's common interviewing mistakes, and if you just read through it before we get to the first interview, it gives you an opportunity to know how people who are scoring can make mistakes by either relying on first impression, negative emphasis, not knowing the job, pressure to hire, and things like that. So be mindful of those. The next tab over are sources of error and evaluations, and those are research in the behavioral sciences has indicated that systematic judgments, such as ratings, are subject to evaluator error due to a response style. You might want to just read it. Some people have a tendency to score across the middle because they don't want to score high or low. You want to make sure that you stay clear from those rater bias, halo effects, comparing the person to oneself, and so forth. The next tab over is the interview rating scale, and that's the important one here because that one tells you the number, the score, and what it indicates. So for the people at home, 5 is a superior score, and 5 means that in addition to all the aspects of the anticipated response correctly, the candidate provides expert detail, explanation, experience, or ideas for the implementation, and the response demonstrates exceptional creativity in the resolution of a problem. And then it goes to number 4, which is excellence, number 3, which is good, number 2, which is fair, and 1, which is poor. After that, what you'll find is loosely in the next binder, you'll see the interview rating. It's a weighted approach, so every question is weighted, and it's weighted to the job posting, the job ordinance of the city, right? The city attorney's position. So every question is weighted heavily more than others. A 3 is a more higher weighted question, and that means that that area is critical and it's vital for job success. A 2 means that it's very important, and 1 means that it's important. So all the questions have been weighted already, so you won't have to worry about adding that number. Your job is to add the rating on the side. So the rating, if you see on the top, it says superior, excellent, good, fair, and poor. And that matches the previous tab when we talked about interview rating scales. You will find that the next tabs each have a loose interview rating weighted approach scoring sheet for every candidate that will come before you. I have some additional blank ones just in case you want to make mistakes and want to start all over. And then you will also see a copy of the application and a copy of the resume and any additional information that they may have attached in applying for the position. So what I thought is that because we have all 4 candidates here, and every interview will most likely take between 45 minutes to an hour, once we go in executive session, that 3 of those individuals return at a certain hour, 45 minutes later or hour, and be ready for your interview. So I started, didn't put them in any particular order, but I do have Acting Director Raquel Uano first, then followed by Attorney Eileen Bernard, and then followed by Attorney Ann Lorenza, and then, of course, last but not least, that's why ladies first, Attorney Brian Corrigan as the last candidate. And so what we do is you interview as you go along, answering the question, as you ask the question and they answer the question, you score the questions. That way, by the time they finish the last ones, which are 11 questions, you'll have a subtotal at the second page. And then you just insert it back in there, and then we go to the next candidate. At the end of all 4 interviews, we thought that you provide us all the scoring sheets. You could keep the binder, but you got to give us the loose weighted scoring sheet so we can take back up to the personnel department and compose all of the scores. We create a spreadsheet. We show you later on this week how everyone scored every question, every one of your members from the committee, the overall score for every candidate, how they placed, and a number of charts and spreadsheets with colorful pictures and colors that will look really professional for you to consider the next time you meet, that you make a recommendation up to the full council. And I thought that'd be the August 25th or 26th meeting, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. It could be different. I wasn't sure if there's something else. If you want to take, tonight to do that, I can sit down and tabulate these real quick. But I thought that, for the way they would do the police and fire, it was a little bit more, the charts helped the committee submit, the recommended individual to the mayor at that time, but this won't be the council. So it's up to your pleasure. We can talk about that, after we get out of executive session, how you want to proceed from there. And I'll be here all along to guide you, make sure that, you're scoring well, that if you have any questions on how to score, how to put anything together. Other than that, yes.
I have 2 questions, Chair.
Councilor Dela Cruz?
Thank you. My question number 1, will I write the names of the applicants on the top?
Yes, so every scoring sheet on the top has, it says applicant name is blank. You will write the name of the person that you're interviewing at that point. And where it says evaluator, that's your name. Your name goes there. And then at the end, you have to sign the form. I mean, you don't have to sign it, but I would like for you to sign it because that proves that you and you alone scored this sheet and no one else did it for you and stuff like that. Some of these documents, well, actually, most of the documents that we use tonight will become part of not only the city clerk's public records, but they'll become part of the personnel department, just in case in the future there's any litigation on this. We have these documents as proof.
My other question, on the weight, number 3 being the highest for the job?
Yes, so the weight is over there. The weight means that it's critical and it's vital to the job, that area. So let's say the first one, I'm not going to ask the question, but the first one is from Councilor Abdul, and it has to do with litigation, right? And basically, he believes that litigation in the city attorney's job is really critical and vital. And if you don't know that, you probably would fail in your position. So we've added a weight of 3. So that's the highest one. But if you look at number 9, this one has to do with challenges. That's not. It's important. It's not very important, but it's not critical. An individual going into a position not knowing that particular area in the city attorney's office is not going to fail as a city attorney. They'll learn it on the job as they go.
In other words, when we writing, we can put a number that we think.
Right, so your number would, the number that you would be putting down is the rating. So it'd be the next column over, that's blank. So really the formula is weight times rating equals the results. So if you look at the first one where Councilor Abdul's question, it has a weight of 3, and the next 2 columns are blank. So the next column you would put in the rating, whether it's poor answer, a fair answer, a good answer, an excellent answer, or a superior answer. And then you multiply the weight by the rating, and that will be the result of your final for that one particular question. What I do is I take all of your 4 answers, your ratings, and I put them together. I put them across the spreadsheet, individual questions, individual counselors, and then overall, so you can see how they scored. A weighted approach is good because it allows no minimum opportunity for a tie. So when we do more clerical positions, we don't use weighted approach, we just use rating 1 through 5, and we do get a lot of ties. It allows the department a bigger pool of candidates to select from. But for more of the higher positions, as chief of police and fire, as Councilor Abdul was in part of the police, it won't allow, for a tie. Very, very few times there will be a tie.
Thank you.
So I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Benet, thank you very much for that explanation and guidance as we go into a rather long evening. And none of us are attorneys ourselves, but I want to draw, for the record, people's attention to Mass General Law, section, Chapter 30A, Section 19A, as a base, and the Attorney General's guidance for open meeting law, Section 8, in the meeting guide that was provided us this evening. In it, it says that the chairman of the screening committee, which for the purposes of this evening is the Personnel Committee of the Lawrence City Council, I being the chair, must state on the record in a public venue that having this discussion in open session would be detrimental to this public body's ability to attract qualified applicants for the position. I hereby state that that would be detrimental for us to remain in public session this evening. We will be seeking a fair evaluation of 4 individuals, 4 accomplished individuals, professionals, and we want to get the best responses from them. We want to respect their privacy to the extent that the open meeting laws allow us to do so. And therefore, for the sake of this committee being able to provide a recommendation to the council president and full council, that we require an executive session this evening. As chair, I will ask for that momentarily, that we go into executive session to meet with these individuals one by one to conclude with our exit from executive session later on this evening.
One more thing I forgot to say.
Mr. Benet.
Some of these questions were submitted by some of your council members of the council, such as Councilor Rodriguez and Councilor Pajano. So when you get to their questions, the chairperson would ask the person, this is a question from so-and-so councilor that wanted me to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Benet, and that, for the sake of process, all of the city councilors of this body were solicited for their questions. Mr. Benet and his able staff went through them and made sure there was no redundant questions and that we were respectful of the candidates, their time, and the process. So, with that, Mr. Russell, I'll allow this question.
Okay, as a member of the press, are these questions...
Mr. Russell, please approach the podium, give your name, and tell us where you're still at. And
Good evening, members of the committee. My name's Richard Russell, 34 Cross Street. I represent the Valley Patriot. My question is, are these questions and the waiting on these questions, again, the questions, I don't care about the answers, that is your prerogative.
the 11 questions.
Okay, the 11 questions, are they going to become public record?
Yes.
Okay, tomorrow morning, I can see Mr. Maloney, and I can
Negative.
put in a public record request for them?
And it cannot be fulfilled until the business of the council is complete. So no, you will not get the answers. You could get the questions.
All I want is the questions and the waiting of the questions. I don't care about the answers, that's just the
And
questions.
the waiting?
The questions we can, not the answers.
The questions is the way, the blank without no answer.
The questions that you gave to,
One at a time. I get it. The questions provided by personnel.
yes,
And the weights assigned to those questions.
yes.
Yes.
I can send Mr. Maloney an email tonight that he can open tomorrow morning, and that request will be honored post haste.
You can email Mr. Maloney anytime you wish, and when he gets in tomorrow morning, He will be,
Mr. Maloney is the gatekeeper of all public records.
thank you, Mr. Russell, I
Okay.
understand that.
But they will be publicly available.
It's my understanding that they will be publicly available tomorrow morning or at the earliest opportunity of personnel in the clerk's office to.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I don't think you'll have channels 4, 5, 7, and Fox to beat for breaking news, so sometime tomorrow.
People in Lawrence that do.
That need to know by 8:35, I understand. That information will be available. With that, I would entertain a motion regarding tabled item number 24418. I would note that we have to take it off the table and then take a subsequent action.
Second.
So move.
So there's a motion and a second to take item 24418 off of the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 24418, City Attorney Job Application Review and Appointment Consideration. What is your wishes with this item?
Mr. Chair, I would like to entertain a motion that we enter into executive session for the purposes of interviews.
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Counselor. There's been a motion and a second to go into executive session to interview candidates and conduct the business of 24418. As a matter of discussion, I'm going to allow Mr. Bonet to speak. He is,
Before we go into executive session,
yes.
should I give instructions for the other candidates to come back at different times separately?
Let's do that as we discussed, and I also discussed with them, so, but please do that in an open session so they know what's happening.
So we do it 45 minutes interval, is that good?
I would give us 5 minutes to take care of any personal business that needs to be taken care of between each.
So the next person, the first person will be Attorney Ruano, so she'll remain seated. The next one, 45 minutes after the executive session starts, would be Attorney Bernal, and then 45 minutes after that, which would be
8:05?
8:05 would be Attorney Bernal, and then 8:45 would be Attorney Lorenza, and then 9:30 will be Attorney Corrigan. Good?
I'm sure Mr.
Yeah,
Corrigan is
dinner,
happy to hear about the expedited schedule. That was quicker than I had told him. So, all right, so without any further questions, comments, is there further discussion by any council members? Hearing none, I will roll call as required for executive session. Council President Vasquez,
Yes.
Councilor DePena,
Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Abdu, the chairman, is a yes. We are now in executive session. I would ask that all members shut their microphones off.